Steve Merril back here on WagerTalk TV with a free NBA play for you tonight. A little big game breakdown at 8 o'clock Eastern between two, at least the worst team maybe in the NBA, the Washington Wizards and the Chicago Bulls, a team that's only 34 and 37, but still in playoff contention and has plenty of reason to take serious. Normally you maybe overlook a team like the Wizards after just beating them 9 days ago, March 16th, easily by 29 points at home, 9.5 point favorite. But I don't think that'll be the case tonight. The Bulls are coming off back-to-back losses. They beat Portland right after that Wizards win, but then they struggled against Houston, who's been just red hot, and a really good Celtics team. So this is a huge step down in class now once again, and we've seen them take care of business recently against the bad teams. As I mentioned, they went 2-0 against the Wizards and Blazers last week at home, and now off back-to-back losses. Don't see any reason why they would take this game anything less than serious, especially since it's a winnable game. And don't look now, not my Washington Wizards have won back-to-back games. Yes, an impressive one is an 11-point dog against Sacramento, but I talked about that game last week on Friday night on the NBA tip-off show right here on Wager Talk TV, and I'd mentioned Thursday, and I did solo videos last week for analyzing all the games in the NBA, and on Thursday I said it was a good spot for the Kings, first half especially, as I thought they would not overlook the first game of a road trip against a bad Raptors team, but they had a look ahead to Washington and then a bigger look ahead the following week, a game against Orlando. And yes, I think they overlooked the Wizards in that game on a Thursday night. So I'm not going to read too much into it. It was a bad spot for the Kings as they had the big game in Orlando on Saturday, and they took it on the chin. The Wizards pulled a rare upset. But as is often the case, when you're playing the Wizards, you're not playing on them. You're playing against the opponent. And that was just a bad spot for the Kings. And yes, the Wizards bounced back with another win on Saturday against the hapless Raptors. But let's keep in mind the Wizards were actually a 6-point favorite in that game. That's how bad Toronto is right now. Huge step up in class now against a competitive Bulls team. And I have no problem fading one of the worst teams in the NBA, which I still have mailed it in, tossed the towel in the season. That's the Washington Wizards. So take a look at the Chicago Bulls minus the 12.5 tonight. If you're going to play it, you better lay it at 8 o'clock Eastern. Another big favorite on the NBA board at 8 o'clock Eastern tonight. Same exact line as the Bulls, as the Houston Rockets minus 12.5. And I mentioned how the Rockets have been one of the hottest teams in the NBA. Well, how hot have the Houston Rockets been? Well, they've won 8 straight, 10 of their last 11 straight up. That's impressive. But what even more impressive and more important from a betting perspective is the Rockets have gone 11-1 against the spread their last 12 games. And the only time they failed to cover was a non-covering win at San Antonio 2 weeks ago. This team is red hot. And yes, this is an inflated line. I get that. But the Blazers really do look like they've tossed the towel in the season. This team has now lost 11 of their last 13 games straight up. This is a team that is just ice cold overall. I'm sorry, they've lost 10 of their last 12. Let's get it right. Still really bad. 2-10 straight up their last 12. They have been sneaking in some numbers, including on Saturday against the Nuggets, a non-win cover at home. And they did the same thing against the Clippers the game before that. But keep in mind that Clipper game was a back-to-back. The Clippers had won and covered, won by 13, covered the first meeting. So it was a flat spot for the Clippers last Friday. Nuggets, the Blazers rather, were able to sneak in and get the cover. And then they were able to sneak in and get the cover, also a non-cover win against, a non-win cover rather, against the Nuggets, of course, on Saturday. Now it's a one-day travel situation, the first of a 7-game road trip. And quality teams often start road trips off well, focused, but this is not a quality team. And up-and-coming teams like Houston often do not overlook the opportunity to blow out weaker teams. And we saw that in the most recent game Saturday night, in which the Jazz got dominated, and Houston won that game by 28, 147-119 as an 11-point favorite. A couple games before that on the road against the Wizards, they were a 10-point road favorite. They won that one 137-114 by 23 points. And keep in mind, they played the Wizards just a couple games before that. So that could have been a flat spot. They beat the Wizards at home by 16 a couple weeks ago, and they were only an 8.5-point favorite. Now, this line is inflated a bit. They were a 7.5-point favorite against the Spurs back at the beginning of March, but they won that by 13. So although it is probably inflated by a couple baskets, and that's what happens when a team goes 12-1 against the spread, it's still the only way to play it. So if you're going to play it, I would lay it with the hottest NBA team in the league, especially from a point spread perspective, and that's the Houston Rockets, minus the 12.5 at 8 o'clock Eastern. One other game on the board late tonight I want to talk about, and that's the Sixers and Kings. In fact, my free play of the day at WagerTalk.com, and be sure to check out those daily free plays, is on the Sacramento Kings minus the 9 points here. And while you're checking out the written analysis at WagerTalk.com, be sure to check out my strong moneymaker best bet tonight on Monday in the NBA. Hey, don't look now, but I'm ranked number 1 this season in the NBA. Sides and totals combined. Now, 93% of my plays have been sides this year. And on sides alone, I am 50 and 32, up over 60 units of profit. I've got another one of those powerful moneymaker sides going tonight in the NBA. So check that out right now. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. And while you're there, check out the bonus free play. And it is on the Sacramento Kings minus the 9 points. Scheduling situation is so important when handicapping the NBA. Motivation is obviously important as well. And this does not look like a good spot for the Philadelphia 76ers. First of all, it's a no-rest situation. It's a third game in 4 nights on the road, and it's not a long road trip going from L.A. to Sacramento, just a few hours. But they played the Lakers, of course, on Friday night, always a high-profile game. But they had an even bigger game against the other L.A. team yesterday on Sunday. The Clippers, Harden's former employer, and it was an underdog win for the Sixers. They won outright 121-107 as a 9.5-point dog. This has letdown flat spot written all over it, and the Sacramento Kings should be able to take advantage. Sacramento is still fighting in that Western Conference for playoff positioning, a solid 41-29 straight up record. But what I like is that this team is 7-3 straight up over their last 10 games, and 5 of those last 7 wins have come by double-digit margins. It's exactly why I think they win this game once again by 10 or more. So lay it if you're going to play it with the Sacramento Kings minus 9. That's at 10 o'clock Eastern tonight on Monday.